Hello, my name is Carol Ivy, and I am here tonight to honor one of the 1993 nominees to the Marin Women's Hall of Fame. Her name is Marguerita Johnson. Unfortunately, she died 3 years ago and cannot be with us tonight, but her son Bernard is with us to share this very special time for a special woman who left so much to the people of Marin County, particularly to our children and our senior citizens. Welcome, Bernard, and on your mother's behalf, I thank you for being here, and we all honor her greatly. What did you think when you heard that your mother was being honored in this way?
Well, I certainly felt very honored myself, and let me just say that the family really appreciates Marin County for this honor that they've bestowed upon my mother.
Was your mom as special a woman as we think she was?
Quite frankly, she defies really pegging, I guess, in terms of how special she was. Yes, she was. She lived a full life, and she was always dedicated to seeing that others got their due.
When you think of her as a child, we're all adults now, and we look back. If you had to paint a picture of your mother while you were growing up, how would you describe her, number one, as a human being and a mother?
Well, she probably was your classic mother of her generation, strong, nurturing, balancing work and family, you know, home life. We all had a lot of love and respect for her. You know, I see, sometimes when I see motion pictures on, you know, on today's television of, you know, the 50s era, you know, and 40s era, where I can see Mom, you know, as some of the, you know, the ladies that are sort of at the controls there. Behind the scenes, so to speak, you know, there's always Dad, but behind the scenes, Mom is in control, this kind of a thing.
And yet your mother sort of stepped out from behind the scenes, and in 1934, I think it was, she received a bachelor's degree in mathematics from a university. That was an extraordinary thing to have happen at that time.
Yes, it was. It sort of, it impresses me even today. She received her bachelor's degree from the University of Indiana, in Bloomington, Indiana, in mathematics. Curiously enough, a minor in Spanish. And, you know, what I'm saying, what better major and minor to have today, you know, given the bilingual situation of our state and everything. And so, indeed, I don't know what was on her mind for a woman back in those days to have those kinds of academic achievements. I don't know where she thought she was going to work, but that was it. That's the situation there.
Did she ever talk to the kids, the boys and the girls, about her goals for you, or did she ever, was she a person who encouraged you all to stay in school by her actions in terms of going back to the university and that sort of thing?
Well, I'll be honest. When you say encourage in a proactive way, I have to be honest and say, no, it was just an assumption, quite frankly. I mean, we were in a family milieu that it was presumed, I mean, it was taught and inculcated in us that we would always do the best we could. There were certain things that people who were in anyone did, and one of those things was that you went to school, you got good grades, and you went as far as you could. So I think it was the environment that she provided more than any, you know, get out there, do it kind of situation.
You were very young, even though you're the eldest of the children, when she was doing those kinds of things, going and getting her degree in mathematics. But at the time, and as you grew a little older, weren't those pretty extraordinary things for a black woman, especially at that time, to be doing? And then she went on to teach. Tell me a little about that.
Yes, well, she got her degree, her first degree, before she was married, and of course before I came along. And but her first professional job was in teaching, and that came about because of not having an avocation where she could find employment, she went back to school, and this is when she obtained her master's degree of education, this at the University of Illinois this time. Then with that, she took that degree and went south, went to the state of Florida, Mariana, Florida, and accepted a teaching position there. And one could ask, why Florida? And it's because in those days there were not integrated teaching staffs in the North. Schools were integrated. Black and white children went to school together, but only white teachers taught. But in the South, given that there was two separate and distinct school systems provided, one for the blacks, one for the whites, there was this demand for black teachers, and so that's how she was accepted there. She taught in a two-room schoolhouse, and because, and this was right outside of Mariana, Florida. It was a country school. I can remember it quite vividly. It was the old classic thing you see in the movies where there was a church in one corner of the lot and a school in the other corner. And she took me to school. I was too young, obviously, to participate, but given that it was country, rather than negotiate some kind of babysitting thing, she brought me to school with her, and I just sort of played around, while she taught. The kids had a lot of fun with me. There were sugarcane fields on either side of the little lot, so the boys would go and sneak and cut sugarcane and bring them to me. It was sort of a nice way to grow up. I being the only one, of course.
For a while.
For a while.
She must have loved children extraordinarily.
I have to say that she certainly did. She taught every grade from second grade to the 12th grade at some point in time. She never taught first grade. So she had a lot of experience that she brought.
You moved north, and you moved back to Illinois, was that?
Back to Illinois. Her mother lived in Urbana, in the Champaign-Urbana.
And then she did something else. She started teaching in a very different way up there.
She, of course, moved, and she found a position in the Champaign school system and started teaching elementary school there. And that's, of course, where we were raised, in Champaign-Urbana. First in Urbana, then to Champaign, but still basically the same Twin City area. And little by little, the family increased till all five of us were around.
Do you remember your mother finding it hard to balance taking care of all the kids and teaching, or how did she deal with that in those days? Before, when women normally just stayed home and took care of their kids.
It was difficult for her, but I think given her humble background, some of the things that she did by that time were things that she knew to do, okay? In other words, we weren't a real affluent family. We were a solid, probably middle-class black family. But I can remember, for the most part, we had meat on Sundays, right? And it was generally chicken, and we were terribly grateful, and it was great. So we didn't perceive ourselves as undernourished, underprivileged.
She did it, in other words.
She did it, and she was able to do it and make us as a family, at least, feel right at home. And I must say that it wasn't a lot different from those families, our neighbors, who did have mothers at home. She had the assistance, of course, for a while, of my grandmother, but that was only for a short period, because we did find our own home. And
did she get involved back in Illinois in community affairs, or did that come later?
She was very much involved there. Quite frankly, I can remember her fighting, school boards and the superintendent of schools in Champaign. I can remember going to bat for myself, and when she didn't think things were quite right. She was about equality, And she was also, my mother could not abide the game playing, the political game playing. And so she was not very respectful of, the protocols there. And so a lot of the deals that would typically be struck, which, is going to hurt somebody, if she saw it impinging on a group that she represented, which was sort of the minority community, and specifically in cases, her family she was right there. And being educated, being intelligent, she was able to go up against them and win most often, certainly gain their respect.
So she came out to California, and I don't know how much, you were grown pretty much
I was
then.
grown. I was out here when she came.
But she did something very strange. She's essentially retired.
She retired. She took what is called, and I guess in teaching circles, a partial retirement. She retired at the age of 55 in Champaign, and I don't know, probably got 2/3 of her retirement pension from that, and came out here to California. She was missed, and they gave her a big send-off from back there. While in that area, she was very much active in the Urban League in Champaign County, and I have it today, a great huge plaque where was, a dedication and a memorial to her coming this way. She was a co-vice president of the Urban League there for a number of years.
That's quite an accomplishment.
It is, for a woman also, because that's a male-dominated group.
Do you remember what kinds of things got her involved in the Urban League, or was it just, again, the need to do what was right or work toward that?
As many times as you find in a minority community, a minority ethnic group, there's always a dearth of people who will take a stand or who will get out front. So she was one of those who was not opposed to that and who was capable enough, and so she came to be looked at as one of the minority leaders in the region, and it was just natural for her to gravitate to that group or agency who was doing effective things. The Urban League there was probably the most effective of any urban league I've been aware of. I don't really think they make urban leagues the way they used to in those days. And
she was willing to take risks.
She was willing to take risks, but she was willing to go where she thought there was going to be some progress made, and so that's what that was about. So when she came to California, and she basically did what she already knew to do. It involved different agencies, different peoples, but...
and didn't she start all over again, having retired?
Yes, yes, certainly. But it's sort of like you hear of people retiring and then going on to build another business. Okay, it's something that she was not one to crawl off in a corner and knit as or bake cookies.
So at age 55, 56, she went back to school.
She went back to school at University of California at Berkeley. I don't recall, I guess that's a 2-year program. She got her master's in library science, and she graduated from there, and I think South Salida was her first assignment as a school librarian.
Were her children surprised that she did that?
I think we weren't surprised that she did it. We were surprised that she would even want to. We were all struggling trying to get to a place of retirement. But certainly, her children, having known her all their lives, knew that she had that capability. And once she set her mind to it, we knew. But she, having retired from the teaching, she wanted to still be a part of that. She still wanted to be part of of helping children find themselves and prepare themselves. From a school librarian standpoint, she still had a connection in there. She was able to provide a resource, what she felt was an important resource for classroom teachers, by having the kinds of books, the kinds of programs that would excite the students.
Do you think your mother was the kind of person who survived all the hard knocks back when it wasn't so easy, and possibly came out here and really flowered in an environment where people appreciated, I mean, they appreciated back there, but she had to go through a lot to get where she got because of the times and everything else. Do you feel that that her later years were years that she really relished the activities?
I think so. I think I could say, and I think maybe she expressed it to me on occasion, that these last years here in California were fun. She had, in fact, gone through boot camp and had learned the ropes, and compared to what her earlier life had been, both as a young woman getting her education and 30 years of teaching, in the Midwest, this was sort of a piece of cake for her. She had nothing to lose. I mean, she wasn't about trying to make a name for herself. She was interested in making a contribution and felt that she had something to offer, something to bring to the table. And I think she found in Marin City population in particular an area that could well utilize her talents.
She made a big difference in Marin City, #1 to young people, and then later to senior citizens. Did you, as her kids, track some of that, and did you follow what she was doing, or did she do it? Was she the kind of woman who just kind of quietly went about her way, and then somebody would give her a big award and you'd hear about it?
That, quite frankly, is probably very true. Her involvement in Marin City, in the main, centered around her church activity, which, of course, afforded her, intimate contact with the population, and the little politic in Marin City, the CDS people and the CDC people. When she first arrived, there was a lot of fervor for making things happen, developing some corporate kinds of entrepreneurial things in the area. And of course, CSD is a sort of a self-governing body there. So she came out and attempted to throw her weight in favor of a more progressive kind of activity that would bring something to the region.
And then she evolved even again and got involved very deeply with senior citizens, did she not?
Yes.
And she was on the commission in Marin. And
she was on the Marin County Commission for Aging. I think she even headed that group up for maybe a couple of years or so.
Your mother never sat around.
She did not. It was just she made the rest of the family fatigued, just to watch her. But yes, I think in the end she saw that once again as an area that was sorely neglected, and it may have been, and I don't know that she didn't share it, but it may have been as she got along in years, she could see, start to identify with this group. I don't know. But certainly she did put a lot of effort in that. The Meals on Wheels, and I forget what they really call it here, the whistle stop people. She did a lot of that. In fact, there were times I'd be over visiting with her, and I'd go out on the run with her to take meals to people who were sort of shut in, but who were elderly. And so obviously her involvement in that caught the county's eye.
Did you ever worry that she was just doing too much and that she'd get exhausted, or do you think she was just the kind of woman who just had to keep going?
I think that because I was constantly telling her to shut it down and do something fun, okay? She had no hobbies per se. I mean, people were her hobby. These activities were her hobby. These activities were her life. And, she just did not, meet the classic mold of, little retired old lady, gray-haired old lady. And I don't think she saw herself. I think, her spirit was still young and vibrant. I mean, the fact that, she obviously, her body aged had nothing to do with it.
Some women are very aggressive because they feel they need to survive in a world of men. I get the impression that your mother was just herself, and she was not, she just knew how to deal with people in a way that maybe other people don't know how to deal with people.
Mother was not aggressive for the sake of being aggressive, and I don't think she saw herself as a aggressive and forward kind of person, and she had no political statement to make per se, no agenda. The word I would, aggression is not the word. She was assertive, all right, where she felt that either there was some travesty of, justice that had gone down. She was assertive in trying to get to the bottom of it, or she was assertive in trying to aid and assist, those who she felt were of value, which was most people, okay, and because of her background, because she had no difficulty interacting with the majority culture. She could talk their language. She could think the way they thought. She was not intimidated, okay, and so.
One thing your brother said at the dinner that night was that your mother was not necessarily a champion of minorities, but she was a champion of all people who needed a champion. Is that how you feel about her, too? Was she basically a colorblind person?
She was, and she raised us children that way. And I think that that was a message I'm sure that she tried to get through to her students, particularly if they were of an ethnic group, and particularly blacks. The fact that you can't allow your blackness to be an impediment to you. You can't use it as an excuse. And yes, I think without a doubt, she was colorblind, and that unfortunately was something that a lot of blacks even took issue with. And it's not an uncommon thing, but that was, I'm sure, if there was an area that might have pained her, it was being misunderstood in that whole thing.
What was it like when she died? Was it a big loss? She must have been a big absence to the family.
It was a loss to me because being close, there were occasions I got over here to share with her and hear her stories of her combat. Okay, but unfortunately, my mother was seriously ill for almost a year prior to her dying. So that was really quite the most painful for me, seeing her in that condition, having been, so active. And I really think that she succumbed when it finally got through to her, that she no longer could look to being active, that she was going to be forced by virtue of her physical condition to, to be, an invalid and basically this sort of shut up, and so I have sometimes thought that my mother's death was one of giving up more than, death coming upon her because of the misery that she had gone through.
Because it was just like in her younger life, she wouldn't just sit there and knit upon her first retirement, and she would not have wanted it to go on like that.
She you know, there would have been no, you know, I think she was at peace with where she was. She was with peace with the whole idea of dying. And if she could no longer do what she longed to and lived to do, it was no longer staying around.
One last question, and that is, does it please you as her child that there will be, especially for young women, something to see, something to look at, to review of your mother's life?
It pleases me no end, and it pleases the family. And if, you know, if one child is inspired by it, it'll all have been worth it.